The distress beacon had been silent for 3 days when Adrian finally got permission to investigate. Director Walsh wanted to ignore it completely. Crashed smuggler ships meant paperwork, investigations, and unwanted attention from authorities. But Adrian had pushed hard enough that Walsh eventually gave in, if only to stop the complaints. The survey rover bounced across the rocky terrain of Talon's Rest, kicking up dust that glowed purple in the moonlight. Adrian kept his eyes on the scanner, following the weak signal deeper into the canyon system. He had been working at this xenobiology research station for 2 years now, and nothing interesting ever happened. Most days were spent cataloging bacteria samples and filing reports that nobody read. The wreckage came into view just after midnight. The ship had hit hard, carving a deep gouge in the canyon wall before settling in a twisted heap of metal. Adrian parked the rover and grabbed his medical kit out of habit. He did not expect to find survivors, but his training would not let him approach empty-handed. Smoke still drifted from the engines. The cargo bay door hung open, swinging slightly in the thin wind. Adrian climbed through the gap, his helmet light cutting through the darkness inside. The smell hit him even through his suit filters. Death and chemicals and something else he could not identify. Cages lined both walls of the cargo bay. Most were empty now, their doors hanging open. The occupants long gone or dead in the crash. Adrian found the first body near the cockpit. A Rigelian trader, neck broken from the impact. The second body was human, a woman with gang tattoos on her arms. Smugglers, just as Walsh had suspected. Adrian was about to leave when he heard it. A sound so faint he almost missed it beneath the groan of settling metal. A chirp, high-pitched and desperate. He followed the sound to the back corner of the cargo bay. A small cage sat wedged between 2 larger containers. Unlike the others, this one was still locked. Adrian knelt down and shined his light inside. The creature was tiny, barely the size of a house cat. Scales covered its body in patterns of orange and gold. Like a sunset had been painted across its skin. 4 legs, 2 wings folded tight against its sides, a long tail curled around itself. A dragon. Not a real dragon from ancient stories, but close enough. The researchers called them draconids. They were native to this moon, rare and protected by about a dozen different laws. This one was dying. Adrian could see it in the way the creature's chest barely moved, in the foam at its mouth, in the glazed look of its eyes. Someone had beaten it. Dark bruises showed through the scales on its back. Chemical burns marked its wings. The cage floor was covered in its own waste and dried blood. The creature looked at him and chirped again. Not a sound of fear, but something else. A question maybe, or a plea. Adrian's hands moved before his brain could stop them. He pulled out his cutting torch and sliced through the cage lock. The metal fell away with a clang that echoed through the dead ship. He reached inside slowly, expecting the creature to bite or scratch. Instead, it just looked at him with those fading eyes. He lifted it out carefully, cradling it against his chest. It weighed almost nothing. Through his gloves, he could feel its heart beating too fast, irregular and weak. Every breath seemed like it might be the last. Walsh would be furious. The rules were clear. All protected species had to be reported immediately and handled by licensed wildlife rescue teams. Taking one back to the station was illegal. Taking one to his private lab was worse. Adrian did not care. He carried the dying creature back to the rover, moving as fast as he dared over the rough ground. His mind was already running through treatment options. The poison in its system, the dehydration, the wounds. Any one of those things could kill it. All 3 together should have killed it already. The ride back took forever. Adrian kept one hand on the creature, feeling its heartbeat against his palm. It had stopped making sounds. Its eyes had closed. He pushed the rover as fast as it would go, flying over rocks that should have broken the axles. The research station was quiet when he arrived. Third shift meant skeleton crew, just a few people monitoring equipment. Adrian used his emergency medical override to access the private labs. Nobody questioned it. Nobody even noticed. He cleared a work table with one arm, sending tablets and papers flying. The creature went down on a clean mat, looking even smaller under the bright surgical lights. Adrian pulled up its vital signs on the scanner and felt his stomach sink. Blood toxicity levels were off the charts. Liver function was almost 0. It should already be dead, but it was not dead, not yet. Adrian pulled on surgical gloves and got to work. He started an IV line, the needle looking enormous against the creature's tiny leg. Fluids first to get the blood pressure up. then activated charcoal through a feeding tube to bind the toxins. He cleaned the wounds with antiseptic, applied regeneration gel to the burns. His hands moved with steady precision, falling into the rhythm he had learned in medical school years ago. Hours passed. The station came alive around him as the day shift arrived, but nobody bothered him in the private lab. Adrian worked without stopping, monitoring every vital sign, adjusting treatments, trying things that had never been tested on this species. He was making it up as he went, using his knowledge of similar reptilian aliens and hoping it would be enough. Dawn light started filtering through the lab windows. Adrian's back ached from bending over the table. His eyes burned from lack of sleep. The creature's heart rate had stabilized, but it still had not opened its eyes. He did not know if his treatments were working or if he was just delaying the inevitable. Then as the sun broke fully over the horizon, the creature stirred. Its eyes fluttered open, focusing on Adrian's face. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. The creature's eyes were silver with flecks of gold. More intelligent than any animal's eyes should be. It made a sound. Not a chirp this time, but something softer. Almost like a purr. Adrian felt something tight in his chest loosen. He reached out slowly and ran one finger along the creature's head, between the tiny horns that would one day grow large and sharp. The scales felt warm now instead of cold. "You are going to make it," Adrian said quietly. "I do not know how yet, but you are going to make it." The creature's tail moved slightly, wrapping around Adrian's wrist like a child holding a parent's hand. Its eyes started to close again, but this time it was real sleep, not unconsciousness. Its breathing was steady and slow. Adrian looked at the scales that caught the sunlight, all those shades of orange and gold and red like fire in the sky. "Skyfire," he said. "I will call you Skyfire." The creature's eyes opened once more, just for a second, and Adrian could have sworn it understood. Then sleep took it, peaceful and healing. Adrian sat back in his chair and let himself breathe. He had violated about 15 different protocols. Walsh would find out eventually. There would be consequences. But as he watched the small chest rise and fall, steady and strong, he could not bring himself to regret it. Sometimes the right thing and the legal thing were not the same. Adrian had made his choice. Whatever came next, he would face it. But right now, in this moment, he had saved a life that everyone else had abandoned. That had to count for something. 6 months changed everything. Adrian watched Skyfire chase a maintenance drone through the lab, his wings fully extended now, each one spanning nearly 2 meters. The creature had grown from the size of a cat to the size of a large dog, his scales deepening into richer shades of crimson and gold. When he moved, light seemed to dance across his body like living flame. The drone beeped in mock distress as Skyfire pounced on it, pinning it to the floor with his front claws. His tail whipped back and forth in triumph. Adrian shook his head and smiled despite himself. "That is the 3rd drone this week, Skyfire. Walsh is going to start asking questions." Skyfire looked up at him and made a sound that Adrian had learned to recognize as laughter. It was not quite a chirp anymore, deeper now, more complex. The creature's intelligence had become impossible to ignore. He understood every word Adrian spoke. He followed commands, solved puzzles, and showed emotions that went far beyond basic animal instincts. A knock on the lab door made them both freeze. Adrian gestured quickly and Skyfire dropped low, squeezing himself behind a bank of equipment. His size made hiding difficult now, but he had learned to stay still when necessary. Rena walked in without waiting for permission. The Ether Wing security officer had feathers instead of hair, and her amber eyes missed nothing. She had caught Adrian sneaking extra food rations 3 times now, but she had not reported it. Yet. "You have visitors in 30 minutes, Rena said, her voice carefully neutral. "Corporate representatives from Helion Industries. Walsh wants you in the main conference room." Adrian's stomach dropped. "What do they want?" "What do you think they want?" Rena glanced toward the equipment bank where Skyfire was hiding. "Word gets around, Adrian. People talk. A xenobiologist with a sudden need for large quantities of food and medical supplies. Strange noises coming from private labs. It does not take genius-level intelligence to figure it out. Rena, I can explain." "Don't," she held up a feathered hand. "I don't want to know the details. But I will tell you this. Helion Industries does not send representatives to remote research stations for friendly visits. Whatever is about to happen, you need to be ready." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "For what it is worth, I think what you did was right. Saving him. But right and legal are not always the same thing. After she left, Skyfire emerged from his hiding spot. He moved close to Adrian, pressing his warm bulk against his leg. Adrian ran his hand along the creature's neck, feeling the strong muscles beneath the scales. "We might have a problem, friend." The conference room smelled like expensive cologne and corporate ambition. Two humans sat across from Adrian, both wearing suits that probably cost more than his annual salary. The man was tall with gray temples. The woman had cold eyes that calculated value in everything they saw. "Dr. Cole," the man began. "My name is Richard Cross. This is my colleague, Dr. Helen Park. We represent Helion Industries' Biological Acquisitions Division." Adrian kept his hands flat on the table, willing them not to shake. Director Walsh sat at the head of the table, looking pleased with himself. "We have been very interested in the draconid specimen you recovered from the smuggler crash," Cross continued. "Your reports show remarkable progress in rehabilitation and growth." "I haven't filed any reports about a draconid," Adrian said carefully. Helen Park smiled without warmth. "Please, Dr. Cole, let us not insult each other's intelligence. We have sources throughout the Frontier Research Network. We know you have been keeping a juvenile draconid in your private lab for 6 months. We know it has been growing at an accelerated rate, and we know that you have discovered something interesting about the species' biology." Walsh leaned forward. "The station's charter allows for commercial partnerships. Helion Industries is offering a substantial sum for the specimen and all research data." "He is not a specimen," Adrian said. The words came out harder than he intended. "And he is not for sale." Cross's pleasant expression did not change. "We are prepared to offer 2 million credits. That is more than you will make in your entire career, Dr. Cole. Think of what you could do with that money." "I have thought about it. The answer is no." 3 million, Helen said. "No." "You do not understand what we are offering," Cross said, his voice taking on an edge. "Draconids have unique regenerative properties. Their cellular structure could revolutionize medical science. We could save millions of lives. By cutting him open and studying his organs? By keeping him in a cage for the rest of his life?" Adrian stood up. "I said no." Walsh's face turned red. "Dr. Cole, sit down. You do not have the authority to refuse this offer." "Actually, I do. Station regulations state that any scientist who personally rescues and rehabilitates a protected species maintains primary custody until proper authorities can arrange transfer. I have not received any contact from proper authorities. Therefore, Skyfire stays with me." "Skyfire?" Helen's eyebrows rose. "You named it?" "Him! I named him!" Cross stood up slowly. "Let me be very clear, Dr. Cole. Helion Industries wants that draconid. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. The easy way, you get 3 million credits and a generous research grant. The hard way involves lawyers, criminal charges for theft of protected fauna, and a very long legal battle you cannot afford." Adrian met his stare. "Then I guess we are doing it the hard way." He walked out before anyone could stop him. His hands were shaking now, but not from fear. From rage. Back in the lab, Skyfire was pacing. He could sense Adrian's emotions, had been able to for months now. When Adrian entered, the creature moved to him immediately, making low, concerned sounds. "They want to take you away," Adrian said quietly. "They want to hurt you to see what makes you special." Skyfire tilted his head, his silver and gold eyes fixed on Adrian's face. Then he did something he had never done before. He moved to the computer terminal where Adrian kept his translation software. The program was designed to help researchers communicate with various alien species. Adrian had been teaching Skyfire to use it as a game, never really expecting results. Skyfire pressed his clawed finger against the screen, selecting symbols with careful precision. The computer's synthesized voice spoke. "Why save me?" Adrian felt his breath catch. Months of work, of hoping, of believing this creature was more than just an animal. And now here was proof. He knelt down so they were eye to eye. "Because you deserved to live. Because when I saw you dying in that cage, I could not walk away. Because it was the right thing to do." Skyfire studied him for a long moment. Then he touched the screen again. "Friend." "Yes," Adrian said, his voice rough. "Friend." More symbols. "They take Skyfire?" "Not if I can help it. But I need you to understand something. What we are about to face, it is going to be dangerous. They have lawyers and money and power. We just have each other. Skyfire made a sound that was almost like a snort. He touched the screen again, selecting words with growing confidence. We enough. Over the next 2 weeks, Adrian worked frantically to document everything. He recorded videos of Skyfire using the translation device. He compiled data showing intelligence levels that matched or exceeded many recognized sapient species. He wrote detailed reports about their communication, about Skyfire's problem-solving abilities, about the emotional complexity he displayed. Rena helped when she could, though she had to be careful. She showed Adrian how to encrypt his data and copy it to multiple secure locations. Other researchers, the ones who had seen Skyfire in brief glimpses, provided quiet support. But Walsh was true to his word. 2 weeks after the meeting, security forces arrived at Adrian's lab with a court order. Hellion Industries had filed legal papers claiming ownership of the Draconid based on salvage rights from the smuggler ship. Adrian stood in front of his lab door, blocking the way. 5 security personnel faced him, including Rena, who looked miserable but determined. "I'm sorry, Adrian," she said. "I have my orders. You are making a mistake. Skyfire is not property. He is a person. The law does not recognize Draconids as sapient," the lead security officer said. "Step aside or we will move you." Inside the lab, Skyfire roared. It was a sound Adrian had never heard before, full of rage and fear. The whole station seemed to shake with it. "Let me talk to him," Adrian pleaded. "Let me explain. If you just storm in there, someone is going to get hurt." Rena nodded to the lead officer, who reluctantly agreed. Adrian slipped through the door and sealed it behind him. Skyfire was in the center of the lab. His wings spread wide, his body coiled to fight. Smoke drifted from his nostrils. Adrian had read that adult Draconids could breathe fire. He had not known juveniles could do it too. "Skyfire, listen to me. You cannot fight them. There are too many and they will hurt you." Skyfire's head swung toward him. "No, take me. I know. But if you fight, they will have an excuse to use force. They might kill you. I cannot let that happen. You come too?" Adrian felt his heart break. "I do not think so. But I will find you. Somehow I will find you and I will get you out. I promise." "No!" Skyfire moved toward the computer, his claws flying over the screen. "Stay. Together. Always. Sometimes we do not get what we want. Sometimes we have to be apart to survive. But I will never stop fighting for you. Do you understand? Never?" The door behind Adrian shook as someone pounded on it. Rena's voice came through the speaker. "Adrian, we are coming in. Get clear." "Please," Adrian said to Skyfire. "Please trust me. This is not over. But you have to let them take you right now. If you fight, you die. If you die, then everything I have done, everything we have shared, it means nothing." Skyfire's whole body trembled, his eyes fixed on Adrian's face, searching for something. Finally, he lowered his wings. "Promise, find me. I promise." The door exploded inward. Security poured in with nets and restraints. Skyfire did not resist as they surrounded him, but his eyes never left Adrian's face. They dragged him toward the door, his claws scraping against the floor. Adrian tried to follow, but hands grabbed him, holding him back. He watched as they forced Skyfire into a transport cage. The creature's roar of fear and anger echoed through the station corridors. Then he was gone. Adrian slumped in the grip of the security officers, all the fight draining out of him. Rena's face was wet with tears she was not supposed to shed on duty. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I am so sorry." Adrian said nothing. He had failed. After everything, after saving Skyfire's life and learning to communicate with him, after discovering that Draconids were people, not animals, he had failed to protect him when it mattered most. But he had made a promise, and Adrian Cole always kept his promises, no matter what it cost him. The courtroom was designed to intimidate. Massive screens covered every wall, displaying evidence and testimony in a dozen languages simultaneously. The ceiling stretched up 5 stories, creating an echo that made every word feel like judgment from the heavens. Adrian sat in the defendant's chair, which was positioned lower than everything else, forcing him to look up at everyone who spoke. 3 months had passed since they took Skyfire, 3 months of being held in a corporate detention facility, while Helion Industries built their case. 3 months of nightmares where he heard Skyfire's roar of fear echoing through empty corridors. Advocate Iris sat beside him, reviewing her notes one final time. She was young for a defense attorney, Barely 30, with determined eyes and a reputation for taking impossible cases. She had agreed to represent Adrian for almost no money, driven by something she called principle. "Remember," she said quietly, "stay calm no matter what they say. We need the judge to see you as a compassionate scientist, not an emotional activist." Adrian nodded. His hands were steady now. Fear had burned itself out weeks ago, leaving only determination. Judge Theron entered through a side door and everyone stood. The judge was a crystalline, a silicon-based species that looked like walking geometric patterns of colored glass. His species was known for absolute adherence to law and complete lack of emotional bias. That could help them or destroy them depending on how the evidence played. "This court is now in session." Theron's voice rang out like crystal chimes. "The Helion Industries Corporation versus Adrian Cole. The defendant is charged with theft of corporate property, sabotage of commercial salvage rights, and reckless endangerment." "How does the defendant plead?" Adrian stood. "Not guilty, Your Honor." "So noted. Prosecution, you may begin." The lead prosecutor was a human woman named Patricia Lynn. She had silver hair despite being in her 40s, and a voice that could cut through steel. She stood and addressed the court with practiced ease. "Your Honor, this case is quite simple. The defendant, Dr. Adrian Cole, discovered a crashed vessel containing various specimens. Rather than following proper salvage law and reporting the find, he took one specimen for himself, a juvenile draconid worth significant scientific and commercial value. He kept this creature hidden for 6 months, during which time he used station resources without authorization. When the rightful owners attempted to claim their property, he refused to cooperate and had to be forcibly removed from his laboratory. This is simple theft, regardless of any emotional attachments the defendant may have formed." Patricia turned to face Adrian directly. "The defendant wants us to believe he acted from compassion, but compassion does not excuse breaking the law. If every scientist could claim ownership of valuable specimens simply by rescuing them, our entire system of commercial research would collapse." She returned to her seat, confident and smooth. Adrian's stomach tightened. She had made it sound so reasonable, so clear-cut. Iris stood, her youth suddenly seeming like a disadvantage in this massive courtroom. But when she spoke, her voice carried strength that belied her appearance. "Your Honor, the prosecution would like you to believe this is a simple property dispute. It is not. This is a case about sapience, about the recognition of personhood, and about the moral obligations we have when we encounter intelligent life. Dr. Cole did not steal property. He rescued a dying child and discovered that child could think, feel, and communicate. The real question before this court is not whether Dr. Cole broke salvage law. The question is whether draconids are people, and if they are, whether owning them is slavery." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Patricia was on her feet immediately. "Objection. The legal status of draconids is not on trial here. They are classified as protected fauna, not sapient beings." "That classification is exactly what we intend to challenge," Iris said calmly. "We have evidence that will prove draconid intelligence meets or exceeds the minimum threshold for sapient recognition." Judge Theron's crystalline structure pulsed with light as he considered. "Objection overruled. The court will hear evidence on the question of draconid sapience. However, Advocate Iris, be aware that the burden of proof is on you. Current legal classification stands unless you can definitively prove otherwise." "Understood, Your Honor." The trial moved into evidence presentation. Patricia called witness after witness, each one testifying to the value of draconid biology, to the legitimacy of Helion's salvage claim, to Adrian's violation of protocols. She painted a picture of a reckless scientist who put his feelings above the law. Then she called Dr. Galen to the stand. Dr. Galen was a saurian, a reptilian species known for expertise in xenobiology. He had 3 advanced degrees and had published over 200 papers. His credentials were unimpeachable. "Dr. Galen," Patricia began, "you have reviewed all of Dr. Cole's research notes regarding the draconid specimen. In your expert opinion, do these notes prove sapience?" Galen's forked tongue flickered out as he considered his words. "No. While the subject shows above-average intelligence for an animal, nothing in the data meets the threshold for sapient recognition. Tool use, communication, problem-solving, all these things can be trained behaviors. We see similar capabilities in many species we do not consider people. Could the translation device usage be explained as trained behavior? Absolutely. Pattern recognition and symbol association are common in intelligent animals. My own species keeps pets that can use similar devices to request food or express basic wants. It does not make them sapient. Adrian felt Iris tense beside him, but she let the testimony continue without objection. She was waiting for something. Patricia smiled. Thank you, Dr. Galen. No further questions. Iris stood slowly, gathering a tablet and approaching the witness stand. Dr. Galen, your credentials are impressive. How many draconids have you personally studied? None directly, but I have reviewed extensive literature on the species. So you have never met one? Never observed one over extended periods. Your entire opinion is based on reading other people's research? Galen's crest flared slightly. That is how scientific consensus works, Advocate. We build on previous research, of course. Tell me, Dr. Galen, when was the last major study done on draconid intelligence? Approximately 40 years ago. And what were the conditions of that study? Galen hesitated. The subjects were wild specimens observed from a distance, so no controlled testing, no interaction, no attempt at communication. And from this 40-year-old observational data, you conclude that draconids cannot be sapient. The burden of proof is on those claiming sapience, not on those denying it. Iris nodded as if this was reasonable. Then she activated the tablet. I would like to enter into evidence a series of videos recorded by Dr. Cole over the 6-month period he cared for the draconid known as Skyfire. The courtroom screens lit up. The first video showed Skyfire as a juvenile, barely larger than a dog. Adrian's voice came through the speakers, giving the creature a complex puzzle involving colored blocks that needed to be arranged in a specific pattern based on verbal instructions. Skyfire completed it in under 2 minutes. The next video showed Skyfire using the translation device without prompting, expressing that he was cold and wanted his sleeping area heated. Another showed him expressing humor at a maintenance drone's antics, using abstract concepts that required understanding of irony. But the video that made the courtroom go completely silent was the last one. Adrian had recorded it the night before Skyfire was taken. In it, Skyfire used the translation device to ask, "What happens when we die?" Adrian's response, "I don't know. No one really knows." "Why do you ask?" Skyfire, "Tonight I dream. In dream I fly with others like me. They are gone now, dead. I want to know if I will find them again someday." "Were those others your family?" "Yes, family. They died scared. In cages like I almost died. If you not save me, I die scared too. But you saved me. You gave me new family, you." The video ended. No one in the courtroom made a sound. Iris turned back to Dr. Galen. "Does that sound like trained behavior to you, Doctor? An animal contemplating its own mortality, expressing grief for lost family, understanding abstract concepts like fear and love and found family?" Galen said nothing. "Let me ask you directly, Dr. Galen. If a member of your species had said those exact words, would you consider them sapient?" "That is not a fair comparison." "Why not?" "Because they look different? Because they have scales instead of skin? We are supposed to be beyond such primitive thinking. Sapience is about the mind, not the body. And that mind in that video is contemplating philosophy. Can you honestly tell this court that is not a person?" Galen looked at the judge, clearly uncomfortable. "I cannot make a definitive statement based on limited video evidence. But you were willing to make a definitive statement based on 40-year-old observational data. Your Honor, the defense rests its case on this point. That video shows clear sapient thought, abstract reasoning, self-awareness, understanding of mortality, capacity for grief and love. If this court does not recognize those qualities as evidence of personhood, then we have lost our way as a galactic society." Over the next 2 days, Iris called more witnesses. A cetacean psychologist testified that Skyfire's emotional range matched that of recognized sapient species. A human linguist analyzed the translation device usage and confirmed it showed true language generation, not simple pattern matching. A Vulpan anthropologist compared draconid social behaviors to his own species' pre-technological society. But Patricia had her own experts, and they all said the same thing. Without more data, without studying more draconids, without years of research, no one could definitively prove sapience. The burden of proof was not met. On the final day, Adrian took the stand. Patricia circled him like a predator. "Dr. Cole, When you found the Draconid, you claim you were motivated by compassion. But is it not true that you have published extensively about the need for updated sapience recognition criteria? That you have argued repeatedly that our current standards are too narrow? Yes, that is true. So you had an agenda. You wanted to prove a point and you used this creature to do it. No, I wanted to save a life. What I learned about Skyfire's intelligence came later. How convenient. Tell me, Dr. Cole, did you ever consider that by keeping Skyfire isolated with only human contact, you were preventing him from learning how to be a proper Draconid? That you might have damaged him developmentally? Adrian felt anger flash through him. I taught him everything I could. I showed him videos of wild Draconids. I encouraged his natural instincts. But you kept him in a lab, away from his own kind. How is that compassionate? There are no other Draconids on the station. His family was dead, murdered by smugglers. I did the best I could with what I had. And what you had was a valuable research subject that could make your career. How much were you planning to make from your research papers about Skyfire? I was not planning to publish anything without his permission. Patricia's eyebrows rose. His permission? You are admitting you believe he is a person? Yes, of course he is a person. Anyone who spent 5 minutes with him would know that. But the law does not recognize him as a person, Dr. Cole. The law recognizes him as protected fauna, and you broke that law because you decided your judgment was better than the entire legal system. Adrian looked directly at Judge Theron. Sometimes the law is wrong, Your Honor. Sometimes it takes time for the law to catch up with reality. Slavery was legal once. Denying rights to artificial intelligences was legal until 50 years ago. Every time people broke the law because it was the right thing to do. And eventually, the law changed. I am not saying I am some kind of hero. I am just saying that when I saw Skyfire dying in that cage, I saw a child in pain, not property, not a specimen, a child, and I could not walk away from that. I will not apologize for saving his life. Patricia smiled coldly. Thank you, Dr. Cole. Your moral superiority is noted. No further questions. The final arguments took another full day. Iris presented their case with passion, weaving together all the evidence into a picture of injustice. Patricia countered with cold legal logic, pointing to the absence of definitive proof. Finally, Judge Theron called for a recess to consider his verdict. Adrian sat in a holding cell waiting. Iris visited once, but she did not offer false hope. It could go either way, she said honestly. Theron is fair, but he is also rigid. If he decides the evidence does not meet the legal threshold, he will rule against us regardless of his personal feelings. What happens to Skyfire if we lose? Iris did not answer right away. Halion has been keeping him in a research facility. From what I understand, they are running tests. Nothing invasive yet because of the ongoing trial, but that will change if they win. Adrian closed his eyes. Somewhere in a cold facility, Skyfire was alone and afraid, wondering why his friend had not come for him. The thought was worse than any punishment the court could give him. 2 days later, they returned to the courtroom for the verdict. The public gallery was packed. News drones hovered near the ceiling, broadcasting to millions across the galaxy. This case had become bigger than either side had anticipated. It had become a referendum on how advanced species treated newly discovered intelligent life. Judge Theron took his position, his crystalline structure pulsing with slow, deliberate light. This court has considered all evidence and testimony. The question before us is twofold. First, did Dr. Adrian Cole violate salvage law and station regulations? Second, does his violation constitute criminal activity or justified civil disobedience based on the sapient status of the Draconid in question? He paused and Adrian felt his heart hammering. On the first question, the answer is clear. Dr. Cole did violate salvage law and station regulations. This is not disputed. On the second question, the matter is more complex. The evidence presented regarding Draconid sapience is compelling, but not definitive under current legal standards. The videos show remarkable intelligence, but intelligence alone is not sufficient. The testimony from experts is mixed. Without access to more Draconid subjects for study, this court cannot definitively rule on their sapient status. Adrian felt his stomach sink. They had lost. However, Theron continued, the court acknowledges that the current legal standards for sapience recognition may be insufficient. The philosophical questions raised in this trial warrant further investigation. Therefore, this court rules as follows. Dr. Adrian Cole is guilty of violation of salvage law and station regulations. However, given the unusual circumstances and the genuine questions raised about Draconid sapience, the sentence is suspended pending a full scientific investigation into Draconid intelligence. Dr. Cole will serve no prison time, but will be barred from practicing xenobiology until the investigation is complete. The Draconid known as Skyfire will remain in Helion Industries' custody, but under strict ethical oversight. This court further orders the Galactic Science Council to conduct a comprehensive study of Draconid intelligence within the next standard year. The courtroom erupted. Some people cheered, others shouted in anger. Patricia looked furious. Iris looked stunned but hopeful. Adrian felt nothing but emptiness. He was free, but Skyfire was not. He had tried and failed. Then the alarms started. Loud klaxons blared through the station, drowning out all other sound. Red emergency lights flashed. A computer voice announced, "Warning. Unidentified large mass approaching station at high velocity. All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill." The courtroom screens switched from the trial feed to external cameras. Everyone turned to look. Something was coming through the darkness of space. Something massive, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. As it got closer, the cameras adjusted focus. Adrian recognized those scales, even though they covered a body now the size of a small spacecraft. He recognized those wings, spread wide enough to cast shadows over entire city blocks. He recognized those eyes, silver and gold, blazing with purpose. Skyfire had come, and he had not come alone. Behind him, dozens of other shapes flew through space. Dragons, some smaller, some even larger, all moving with the same purpose. Adrian looked at Judge Theron and saw his own shock reflected in the crystalline structure's pulsing light. The trial was over, but something far bigger was just beginning. Skyfire hit the station's observation dome like a meteor wrapped in scales and fury. The reinforced glass splintered but did not break completely, creating a spiderweb of cracks that ran across the entire surface. People screamed and dove for cover as the massive Draconid landed on the exterior surface, his claws finding purchase on the metal framework. Adrian could see him clearly now through the damaged dome. Skyfire had grown enormous during their separation. His wingspan had to be at least 30 meters across. His body was thick with muscle, covered in scales that shone like polished gems in the station's lights. But his eyes were the same. Those silver and gold eyes that had looked at Adrian with trust and understanding 6 months ago. Now those eyes blazed with something else. Rage. Skyfire's roar shook the entire station. It was not the sound of an animal. It was the sound of someone who had been wronged and had come to make it right. The observation dome cracked further under the vibration. "Security to the courtroom immediately." Judge Theron's voice cut through the panic. "Emergency bulkheads, seal the room." Heavy metal panels began sliding down over the exits. Adrian moved without thinking, running toward the cracking dome. Iris grabbed his arm, trying to pull him back. "Adrian, what are you doing?" "That thing is going to break through." "He is not a thing." Adrian yanked his arm free. "And he is here for me." Another impact rocked the station as one of the other Draconids struck a different section. The station's artificial gravity flickered. People were shouting, crying, trying to evacuate, but the emergency bulkheads were trapping them inside. Skyfire's voice boomed through the station's external speakers. The translation device he wore around his neck had been upgraded somehow, giving him a voice that sounded almost human but deeper, resonating with power. "Give me Adrian Cole. Give him to me now." Judge Theron's crystalline structure pulsed rapidly, a sign of stress. "Attention, whoever you are. This is a court of law. You cannot simply attack a judicial station and make demands. I can, I will. You took my father, you hurt him. Now I hurt you. Father." The word hung in the air. Adrian felt his throat tighten. Patricia stood up, her face pale but defiant. "Your Honor, this proves our point. The creature is dangerous, unpredictable. This is why it needed to be contained." "You contain me!" Skyfire's roar was filled with pain and anger. "You take me from Adrian, you put me in cage, you hurt me with needles, you make me alone. 3 months. Alone. 3 months I wait for Adrian to come. Promise he not come, Adrian." Felt like someone had punched him in the chest. "I tried," he shouted at the dome. "Skyfire, I tried to get you back." "They would not let me." The massive head swiveled, focusing on the spot where Adrian stood. For a moment, the rage in those eyes softened. Adrian? Yes, I am here. I am okay. You do not need to destroy the station. They hurt you. They put me on trial, yes. But I am not hurt. Not physically. You are hurt. Skyfire's tail lashed, striking the dome again. More cracks spread like lightning. I feel it. You are hurt in your heart because of me, because they take me. That is not your fault. I come to make it right. I come to take you home. Security forces burst into the courtroom from a side entrance that had not sealed properly. 20 officers in full combat armor, weapons raised and pointed at the dome. The lead officer, a broad-shouldered human man, shouted into his comm unit, "Target acquired. We have visual on the hostile. Requesting permission to fire. No." Adrian threw himself between the security team and the dome. "Do not shoot him. Dr. Cole, stand aside. That is a direct order. If you fire on him, he will tear this station apart. And the others outside will help him. Look at your sensors. There are dozens of them out there." Judge Theron accessed a terminal, his movements sharp and agitated. The courtroom screen switched to show exterior views. Draconids circled the station like a fleet of living warships. Some were as large as Skyfire, others even bigger. They moved with coordinated precision, cutting off escape routes and blocking docking bays. Iris had pulled up data on her tablet, her eyes wide. "Your Honor, there are 43 Draconids surrounding this station. Sensor scans show they are all producing massive amounts of thermal energy. If they attack simultaneously, they could breach the hull in multiple locations. The station would depressurize in minutes." "Then we negotiate," Theron said. He activated the external speakers. "Skyfire, your name is Skyfire, correct?" "Yes, I am Judge Theron. I presided over Dr. Cole's trial. I understand you are upset, but attacking this station will result in the deaths of thousands of innocent people. Surely you do not want that. I want Adrian. Dr. Cole is not a prisoner. The trial is over. He is free to leave with you if he chooses." Patricia jumped to her feet. "Your Honor, you cannot seriously be considering letting a hostile force take a convicted criminal." "I was convicted of violating salvage law, not murder," Adrian said coldly. "And my sentence was suspended. Judge Theron is right. I am free to go." Another Draconid voice came through the speakers, this one older and rougher than Skyfire's. "Human Judge, I am Cinderclaw, elder of the Draconid flight clans. We did not come here to kill. We came here to retrieve one who is precious to us. The human called Adrian Cole saved the life of our young. This makes him family. You put our family on trial like a criminal. This we cannot accept." Theron's crystalline structure pulsed slowly as he processed this information. "You are saying Dr. Cole is considered family to your entire species?" "Not entire species. To our clan. Skyfire is of our blood. Adrian saved him when he was dying. Adrian showed kindness when others showed cruelty. This makes Adrian part of our clan. We protect our clan." Iris was typing frantically on her tablet. "Your Honor, this changes everything. If the Draconids consider Dr. Cole family, and if they are a sapient species, then this is a diplomatic incident, not a criminal matter." "They are not recognized as sapient," Patricia insisted. "This is just more evidence of animal pack behavior." "Animal?" Cinderclaw's roar made the previous sound seem quiet. "You call us animals? We who flew between stars when your ancestors lived in caves? We who chose to hide from the galaxy because of species like yours, who see everything as property to be owned?" The courtroom went silent. Adrian felt goosebumps rise on his arms. Theron spoke carefully. "Elder Cinderclaw, are you claiming that Draconids are an advanced civilization that has deliberately hidden from galactic society?" "We claim nothing. We state fact. For 5,000 of your years we watch. We test. We send our young ones into the galaxy to see how others treat them. Most die. This proves the cruelty of your civilizations. Skyfire was sent to test humanity. He was beaten, poisoned, left to die in a cage. This is what we expected. This is what always happens." "But Adrian saved him," Iris said, her voice filled with wonder. "Yes. For first time in 5,000 years, someone saves our child. Not for profit, not for study. Because it was right thing to do. This changes everything. This makes us think perhaps one species in this galaxy has learned compassion." Adrian looked up at Skyfire through the cracked dome. The massive Draconid's eyes were locked on him, and Adrian finally understood. He had not just saved a dying creature, he had passed a test that countless other species had failed. "Then why did you let them take him?" Adrian called out. 3 months he spent in that facility. If you were watching, why did you not come sooner? Cinderclaw answered. We wanted to see what humans would do. Would they listen to evidence? Would they see truth? Would they choose justice over profit? You humans came close. Some of you fought for Skyfire. Some of you spoke truth in that trial. But in the end, your law still called him property. Your law still gave him to those who would harm him. This is when we decided to act. Judge Theron's structure was pulsing rapidly, now cycling through colors. This court had not yet rendered a final verdict on the question of sapience. I was waiting to announce that Draconids would be granted provisional sapient status pending further investigation. Provisional? Skyfire's voice was bitter. We are people or we are not. There is no provisional. That is not how our legal system works, Theron said. Sapient recognition is a complex process requiring extensive evidence and testimony. We cannot simply declare a species sapient because they claim to be. Then your legal system is broken, Adrian said. Everyone turned to look at him. He met Judge Theron's faceted gaze without flinching. Skyfire showed you he could think, feel, communicate. He mourned his dead family. He formed bonds of love and loyalty. He demonstrated abstract reasoning and self-awareness. What more evidence do you need? And how can you justify keeping him imprisoned while you gather that evidence? Dr. Cole has a point, Iris said. If we imprison people while we decide if they are people, we are admitting that our process is fundamentally unjust. Patricia shook her head. This is ridiculous. We cannot allow ourselves to be bullied by an aggressive species making unverified claims. Unverified? Another Draconid appeared beside Skyfire, this one even larger with scales so dark they seemed to absorb light. The voice was ancient, heavy with years. I am Cinderclaw. I speak now where all can hear. We are the Draconids. We built cities on 17 worlds before your species discovered fire. We mapped the stars from our homeworld using only our eyes and our minds. We created art, philosophy, mathematics, poetry. Then we made a mistake. We trusted others. We showed ourselves to those we thought were friends. They tried to enslave us. They hunted us for our scales, our fire, our regenerative abilities. We fought back and nearly destroyed ourselves in the process. So we chose to disappear, to hide, to watch, to wait for species who proved they deserved to meet us as equals. For 5,000 years we waited. Adrian Cole is the first to pass our test. The courtroom screen shifted again, showing images transmitted from the Draconids. Ancient structures on distant worlds clearly created by intelligent hands. Star charts carved into stone, accurate to incredible degrees. Art that spoke of deep culture and complex thought. Mathematical equations that human scientists would need hours to verify. All of it broadcast directly into the galactic network. Within seconds, the images were spreading across the galaxy. News agencies were picking up the feed. Scientists were analyzing the data. The evidence was overwhelming and it was public. Patricia stared at the screens, her face gray. This cannot be real. This is some kind of trick. It is real, Cinderclaw said. And now your galaxy must choose. Recognize us as people or declare war on an ancient civilization. That was mapping stars before your ancestors stood upright. Choose wisely. Judge Theron stood motionless for a long moment. Adrian could only imagine the calculations running through the crystalline mind. Finally, Theron spoke. This court recognizes that new evidence has come to light that fundamentally alters the nature of this case. Given the claims made by Elder Cinderclaw and the evidence being transmitted, I am immediately granting provisional sapient status to the Draconid species pending full Galactic Council review. Dr. Adrian Cole, your conviction is hereby overturned. You are free to go. Skyfire. You are recognized as a sapient being with full rights under galactic law. Helion Industries' claim of ownership is void. Patricia started to object, but Theron cut her off with a gesture. This court is adjourned. I suggest everyone evacuate in an orderly fashion while I begin emergency communications with the Galactic Council. Skyfire's claws gripped the observation dome. Adrian, come to me. Adrian looked at the cracked glass, then at the emergency airlock nearby. I need an environment suit. Adrian, you cannot seriously be going out there, Iris said. He came for me. I am not going to make him wait. Adrian turned to Rena, who had been standing quietly near the security team. You still owe me for not reporting Skyfire earlier. Get me a suit. Rena hesitated, then nodded. This way. 5 minutes later, Adrian stood in the airlock wearing an emergency environment suit. Through the small window, he could see Skyfire waiting just outside, his massive body blocking out the stars. The suit's air supply was good for 2 hours. After that, things would get complicated. Adrian did not care. He had made a promise to find Skyfire and bring him home. He had failed to keep that promise for 3 months. He would not fail again. The airlock cycled open. Space surrounded Adrian, cold and infinite and beautiful, and right in front of him, silver and gold eyes looked at him with love and relief and fierce joy. Skyfire's claw reached out, gentle despite its size, and carefully wrapped around Adrian's suited body. The translation device spoke with Skyfire's voice. "Father, I found you." Adrian's voice cracked as he responded over the suit's communicator. "Son, I'm so sorry I could not come sooner. You come now. That is what matters." Cinderclaw flew closer, his ancient eyes studying Adrian carefully. "Human, you have changed the fate of 2 civilizations today. Do you understand what that means?" Adrian looked at the massive dragon, then at Skyfire holding him gently in claws that could crush steel. He thought about the night he found a dying hatchling in a smuggler's cage. He thought about making the choice to save that life even though it would cost him everything. He thought about how one act of compassion had led to this moment, surrounded by dragons in the darkness of space, on the edge of something new and unknown and important. "It means I did the right thing," Adrian said simply, "and I would do it again." Cinderclaw made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Come, Adrian Cole, come to Ashfall. Come to our home. There is much to discuss and many who wish to meet the human who saved our test child and changed our minds about your species." Skyfire began to fly, carrying Adrian carefully, heading away from the station. Behind them, the other Draconids formed an honor guard, a squadron of living starships escorting their clan brother home. As they flew, Adrian looked back at the station one last time. He could see ships launching, news drones following them, broadcasting everything to the galaxy. His life as he knew it was over. But a new life was beginning, one he could never have imagined. Skyfire's voice rumbled through the communicator. "Are you scared, Father?" Adrian smiled. "No, I am with family. What is there to be scared of?" "Then hold tight. Ashfall is far, but we fly together. Always together now." "Always," Adrian agreed. And as they accelerated into the darkness between stars, Adrian felt something he had not felt in months. He felt hope. Ashfall was beautiful in the way that dangerous things often are. The planet's surface glowed with rivers of molten rock that carved through black volcanic plains like veins of fire. Mountains spewed ash and smoke into a thick atmosphere that would kill most species within minutes. The heat was intense even from orbit, radiating through space like the planet itself was angry at the universe. Adrian watched through his helmet as they descended toward what looked like the mouth of a massive volcano. His environment suit's temperature warnings had been screaming for the last 10 minutes. Skyfire held him carefully, adjusting his flight path to shield Adrian from the worst of the heat. "This is your home?" Adrian asked. "One of them," Skyfire replied. "We have settlements on 5 worlds now. Ashfall is the oldest, the first, where Draconid civilization began before we spread to the stars." They plunged into the volcano's mouth. Adrian's suit sensors went haywire as they entered what should have been a crater filled with magma. Instead, they entered a vast cavern system that stretched down into the planet's crust. The walls glowed with their own light, some kind of bioluminescent crystal that turned the cave into a cathedral of shifting colors. And everywhere, there were dragons. They perched on ledges carved into the cavern walls, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Some were as large as Skyfire, others much bigger, a few smaller, all colors imaginable. From Skyfire's sunset reds and golds to deep blues and purples and greens that seemed to shimmer in the crystal light. They watched in silence as Skyfire carried Adrian down into the depths. The cavern opened into a massive underground valley. Structures rose from the ground, not buildings in the human sense, but elaborate sculptures of stone and metal that served as homes and gathering places. Gardens grew in the volcanic soil, plants that thrived in heat and fed on minerals from the lava flows. Water channels carried liquid that glowed faintly, some kind of geothermal solution rich in dissolved minerals. It was a city, an actual city built by and for dragons. Skyfire landed in a central plaza where Cinderclaw and several other massive draconids waited. The old dragon's dark scales seemed to drink in the light from the crystal walls. His eyes were ancient and knowing, the eyes of someone who had seen civilizations rise and fall. Welcome to Ashfall, Adrian Cole, Cinderclaw said. You are the first human to see this place, the first alien of any kind in 5,000 years. This is a great honor we give you. Adrian climbed out of Skyfire's claw, his suit boots touching volcanic stone that was warm even through the insulation. Why show me this? Why trust me? Because you trusted us first, a new voice said. Another draconid approached, this one smaller than Cinderclaw but with scales of pure silver that seemed to generate their own light. I am Moonwing, keeper of our histories. You saved Skyfire without knowing what he was. You fought for him when everyone told you he was just an animal. You risked everything because you believed he deserved life and dignity. That is not something we see often in this galaxy. Others have saved draconids before, haven't they? Adrian asked. Over 5,000 years there must have been some. Cinderclaw made a rumbling sound deep in his chest. 47 times someone has saved one of our test children. 47 times in 5,000 years. Most of those times the rescuer wanted payment or recognition. They saved our children to profit from them later. 15 times the rescuer tried to keep our child as a pet, something to show off to others. Only 7 times did someone save our child and ask for nothing in return. But even those 7 eventually betrayed our trust. They told others about us. They brought scientists who wanted to study us. They could not keep the secret. You are the 8th, Moonwing said. But you are different from the others. You did not just save Skyfire. You learned to communicate with him. You discovered his intelligence on your own, and treated him as a person before anyone told you to. When they tried to take him from you, you fought using their own laws. And when you testified at your trial, you told the truth even though it cost you everything. You never betrayed him, not once, even when it would have been easier. Adrian looked at Skyfire, who had curled his massive body around the group protectively. He was dying in my arms. How could I betray him after that? Most species would find a way, Cinderclaw said. This is what we learned over 5,000 years. Most species talk about honor and compassion, but when tested they choose profit over principle. They choose comfort over courage. Your species is the same. We have seen it. But you, Adrian Cole, you are different. You give us hope that perhaps humanity can evolve beyond greed. I am just one person. You cannot judge an entire species by one person. Can we not? Moonwing's silver scales rippled. Civilizations are built by individuals making choices. If one human can choose compassion over profit, others can too. You are proof that your species has the capacity for growth. What about the others? Adrian asked. The ones who supported me during the trial? Advocate Iris fought hard for Skyfire's rights. Rena helped me even though it could have cost her career. There were scientists who provided testimony supporting Draconid sapience. Cinderclaw nodded slowly. This is why we revealed ourselves now. We watched your trial. We saw those humans fight for what was right, even when it was difficult. We saw your Judge Theron struggle with the law, trying to find a just answer in an unjust system. We saw enough good to convince us that perhaps it is time to stop hiding. But you are still cautious, Adrian guessed. That is why you brought me here instead of going directly to the Galactic Council. Smart, Skyfire rumbled. Father is very smart. We are cautious because we must be, Cinderclaw agreed. The last time we trusted too quickly, we nearly went extinct. We need to know more about your civilization before we fully reveal ourselves, and we need humanity to prove that your compassion is not just an exception, but a pattern. A younger draconid flew down from one of the ledges, landing near the group with excitement evident in every movement. His scales were bright green with gold highlights. Elder Cinderclaw, the galactic networks are exploding with news about us. Every species is talking about the draconids. Some are calling for immediate diplomatic recognition. Others are demanding proof. Halion Industries is claiming the evidence is fabricated. There are protests on 17 worlds, some supporting us, some opposing us. Expected, Moonwing said calmly. Change is always chaotic. Adrian turned to Cinderclaw. What do you want from me? Why bring me here? We want you to be our voice, Cinderclaw said. Our ambassador to humanity and the galaxy. You understand both worlds now. You saved one of us and fought for us when we could not fight for ourselves. You have earned trust that no one else has. Speak for us, Adrian Cole. Help humanity understand what we are and why we hid for so long. Help prevent the wars that will come if this is handled poorly. I am not a diplomat. I am a xenobiologist. You are whatever you choose to be, Moonwing said. You chose to be Skyfire's savior when you could have walked away. You chose to be his defender when you could have surrendered him. Now we ask you to choose to be a bridge between our peoples. Will you? Adrian looked around the cavern city at the dragons watching him with eyes full of hope and fear, and desperate need to believe that revealing themselves had not been a mistake. He thought about the weight of responsibility they were offering him. One wrong word, one mistake, and he could start a war that would cost millions of lives. But then he felt Skyfire's presence beside him, the dragon who had called him father, who had flown across space to save him just as Adrian had once saved him. How could he refuse? I will try, Adrian said. But I will need help. I cannot do this alone. You will not be alone, Cinderclaw said. Skyfire will be with you. He is your guardian now, your protector and companion. Where you go, he goes, and we will provide whatever resources and knowledge you need. There is something else, Adrian said carefully. Helion Industries will not give up. They spent money on their legal case. They have investors who want returns. They will try to claim rights to draconid biology. Maybe argue that the evidence of your civilization is fake. They will fight this. Let them fight, Cinderclaw growled. We have fought worse enemies and survived. But you are right to worry. We need a plan to deal with those who will seek to exploit us. Adrian's mind was already working, falling into the analytical patterns he had learned as a scientist. We need to control the narrative. Right now, the galaxy knows draconids exist and claim to be sapient. But claims are not enough. We need to prove it in ways that cannot be denied. We need draconid representatives at the Galactic Council. We need cultural exchanges. We need to show the galaxy that you are not just intelligent animals, but a civilization with history and art and philosophy. This will take time, Moonwing said. Years, perhaps. We have time, Adrian said. But we need to start immediately. The longer we wait, the more propaganda groups like Helion can spread. We need draconid scientists publishing papers, draconid artists creating works that speak to universal experiences, draconid philosophers engaging in debates with other species. We need to make it impossible for anyone to deny your personhood. Cinderclaw looked at Moonwing, some unspoken communication passing between them. Finally, the old dragon turned back to Adrian. You think like one of us. Strategic, patient, thinking in long spans of time. Perhaps that is why Skyfire bonded with you so deeply. You have a draconid mind in a human body. I just try to think ahead, Adrian said. And right now I am thinking that we have maybe a few days before Helion launches their counterattack. We need to be ready. We are ready, a new voice said. Another draconid descended, this one with scales of deep blue marked with silver patterns like stars. I am Starclaw, leader of our diplomatic caste. We have been preparing for this moment for decades, waiting for the right time to reveal ourselves. We have ambassadors ready. We have cultural archives prepared. We have scientists eager to share their knowledge with the galaxy. We just needed someone to open the door. You opened it, Adrian Cole. Now we can walk through. Over the next several hours, Adrian met with what could only be described as the draconid government. Not exactly a council, but a loose collective of clan leaders and specialists who made decisions through debate and consensus. They showed him their history, their culture, their technology. They had advanced sciences, some areas where they exceeded the current galactic standard. They had art that was breathtaking, sculptures and paintings and music that spoke to something universal in the experience of consciousness. But they also had scars. Moonwing showed Adrian records of the war that had nearly destroyed them, ancient data preserved in crystal memory that lasted millennia. He saw draconid cities burning, saw his people hunted for their scales and organs, saw the desperate choice to hide rather than fight to extinction. We do not want war, Moonwing said quietly as they watched the historical recordings. We have had enough war to last 1,000,000 years, but we will fight if we must. We will not be enslaved again. We will not be farmed for our biology. We will not be laboratory specimens. This is why we need you to succeed, Adrian. If your mission as ambassador fails, if humanity and the galaxy choose exploitation over cooperation, then we will have no choice but to defend ourselves. How many draconids are there? Adrian asked. Across 5 worlds, roughly 200,000. We reproduce slowly. We live long. We lost billions in the war. We are still recovering. 200,000 against a galaxy of trillions. If war came, the draconids would lose eventually, even if they took millions with them. Then we make sure war does not come, Adrian said firmly. We make the galaxy see you as I see you. As people, as friends. as a civilization worthy of respect and partnership. Skyfire had been quiet during most of the meetings, content to stay close to Adrian and listen, but now he spoke. "Father, you are tired. You need to rest and eat. You have been in that suit for 8 hours. The air supply is getting low." Adrian checked his suit readings and was startled to see Skyfire was right. "Is there somewhere I can remove the suit? Somewhere with breathable atmosphere?" Cinderclaw nodded. "We have prepared living quarters for you. Not quite the same as your station, but we made it as close as we could. Come." They led him through the cavern city to a structure that looked like it had been built recently. Inside, the temperature was cooler, almost comfortable, and the air mixture was Earth standard. A bed, a desk, computer terminals, even a small kitchen stocked with human food. "How did you prepare all this so quickly?" Adrian asked. "We have been watching you for months," Moonwing admitted. "Since the trial began, we have been gathering information about your needs just in case you came here. We wanted you to be comfortable." Adrian slowly removed his environment suit, feeling the recycled air of the room on his skin. It felt strange to be standing in a dragon city wearing nothing but his regular clothes. But it also felt right somehow. Skyfire curled up near the entrance, too large to fit fully inside, but positioning himself so he could watch over Adrian. "Rest, father. Tomorrow we begin the hard work. Tonight, just rest." Adrian sat on the bed, which was surprisingly comfortable, and looked at the dragon who had once been small enough to hold in his arms. "Skyfire, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When you were in that facility, when they were running tests on you, what kept you going? What made you not give up?" Skyfire's eyes glowed softly in the dim light. "You. I remember when I was dying in your arms. I remember you refusing to let me go. You fought death for me. So when I was in that cage, alone and scared and hurting, I told myself I had to fight too. I had to survive so I could find you again. Because you taught me that life is worth fighting for. You taught me that love is real and strong and worth any pain. So I fought. And I survived. And I found you. That is what kept me going." Adrian felt tears burning his eyes. "I am sorry I could not come for you sooner. You came. That is all that matters. You came." Skyfire shifted slightly, his wing extending to partially cover the entrance like a protective curtain. "Sleep now, father. I will keep watch. Nothing will harm you while I live. This I swear." Adrian lay back on the bed, exhaustion hitting him all at once. So much had happened in the last 24 hours. His trial, Skyfire's rescue, the revelation of Draconid civilization, being brought to an alien world and asked to serve as ambassador. It was overwhelming, but as he closed his eyes, he felt something he had not felt since they took Skyfire away. He felt safe. He felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. Tomorrow would bring challenges he could barely imagine. Tomorrow he would have to face corporations and politicians and species who would fight against Draconid recognition. Tomorrow he would have to be an ambassador and a diplomat and somehow prevent a war. But tonight he was just a man who had saved a life and been saved in return. Tonight he was just a father sleeping peacefully while his son kept watch. And that was enough. The assault came just before dawn on Ashfall's eternal night. Adrian woke to alarms blaring through the cavern city and Skyfire's roar of warning. He scrambled to the entrance of his quarters to find the underground sky filled with ships. Dozens of them, military-grade vessels bearing Helion Industries markings alongside mercenary company symbols. "They found us," Adrian said, his heart pounding. "Of course they found us," Cinderclaw's voice boomed through the cavern. The old dragon flew past, his dark scales barely visible in the crystal light. "We wanted them to find us. We broadcasted our location on every frequency. Let them come. Let the galaxy see what happens when corporations try to take what is not theirs." More draconids were taking flight, flowing out of the caverns like smoke from a fire. Adrian counted at least 100, maybe more, all moving with coordinated precision. This was not a panicked defense. This was a military formation executed by people who had fought wars before. Skyfire landed beside Adrian's quarters. "Get on my back, father. You need to be safe." "What I need is to stop this before it starts," Adrian said. He ran to his computer terminal and activated the communication system.
"Helion Fleet, this is Dr. Adrian Cole. Stand down immediately."
"You are about to attack a sovereign civilization. This is an act of war." A face appeared on the screen. Patricia Lynn, the prosecutor from his trial, now apparently acting as spokesperson for Helion Industries. Her expression was cold and determined. Dr. Cole, you are in violation of your suspended sentence by associating with hostile forces. Surrender yourself and the Draconid specimens immediately. Specimens? Did you learn nothing from the trial? The trial revealed claims, not facts. Hellion Industries has invested significant resources in Draconid research. We have legal rights that supersede any provisional sapient recognition. You have 48 hours to comply, starting now. You mean you have investors demanding returns and a board of directors who do not care about anything except profit margins? Adrian shot back. This is not about legal rights. This is about corporate greed, trying to enslave an entire civilization. 47 hours and 59 minutes, Dr. Cole. The screen went dark. Cinderclaw landed heavily beside Skyfire. They want a show of force. They think we are primitives who will be frightened by their warships. They do not understand what we are. Can you fight them off? Adrian asked. Easily. We have weapons they have not seen. Technologies we kept hidden. But that is not the question, is it? The question is what happens after. If we destroy that fleet, every military in the galaxy will see us as a threat. They will come in greater numbers. And eventually, even we will fall. Then we do not fight them, Adrian said, his mind racing. We do something else. Something that makes fighting us impossible. What do you propose? Adrian looked at the ship circling above, at the dragons preparing for battle, at Skyfire ready to protect him at any cost. An idea was forming, dangerous and risky but possibly brilliant. We go public, completely public. We broadcast everything to the entire galaxy in real time. We show them this cavern city, your art, your science, your history. We show them Draconids living, creating, thinking. We make you so visible that harming you becomes politically impossible. And we do it from the Galactic Council chambers. Moonwing had approached during the conversation. You want to fly directly to the Council? With Helion's fleet surrounding us? Yes, we broadcast our departure. We tell the galaxy exactly where we are going and why. We bring Draconid representatives, cultural artifacts, scientific data. We present everything to the Council live, with billions watching. Helion cannot attack us during that journey without looking like villains in front of the entire galaxy. Starclaw joined the growing group. It is risky. If the Council rejects us, if they side with Helion, we will be trapped with nowhere to retreat. They will not reject you, Adrian said with more confidence than he felt. Not if we do this right. Not if we show them what I have seen here. Your civilization is too beautiful, too valuable, too important to reject. We just need to make them see it. Cinderclaw studied Adrian for a long moment. You are betting everything on galactic public opinion. On the hope that enough species will choose justice over profit. That is exactly what I am betting on. And I think we can win that bet. Humans like to think we are practical and cynical, but the truth is we are suckers for a good story, and this story is incredible. A hidden civilization of dragons who tested other species for 5,000 years and finally found one worth trusting. A scientist who saved a dying alien child and changed the fate of 2 civilizations. The galaxy will eat that up. Skyfire made a sound that might have been a laugh. Father thinks like a storyteller now, not just a scientist. I learned from watching you, Adrian said. You are the best story I know. Cinderclaw spread his wings. Then let us tell our story to the galaxy. Prepare the cultural delegation. Gather the artifacts. We fly to the Galactic Council in 1 hour, and we do it with every camera in the galaxy watching. The next hour was controlled chaos. Draconids gathered artwork, scientific instruments, historical records. Adrian recorded a message that was broadcast simultaneously on every major news network in the galaxy. He stood in the cavern city with Skyfire beside him and spoke directly to billions of watching people. My name is Dr. Adrian Cole. 6 months ago, I found a dying creature in a smuggler's cage. I saved his life because it was the right thing to do. I learned that he could think and feel and communicate. I fought for his rights and was put on trial for it. Today I stand in the heart of a hidden civilization that is older than most species in the galaxy. The Draconids are real. They are people, and they are ready to join the galactic community as equals. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. Behind him, Draconids went about their work. The camera capturing their city, their culture, their obvious intelligence. Hellion Industries is currently threatening this civilization because they see profit in exploitation. They want to harvest Draconid biology, to own and control what should be free. I am asking the galaxy to witness what happens next. We are flying to the Galactic Council to present formal evidence of Draconid sapience. We are doing this openly, peacefully, and lawfully. If we are attacked during this journey, if Helion or anyone else tries to stop us with violence, the galaxy will know who the real criminals are." Adrian stepped closer to the camera. "I am just a xenobiologist who made a choice to save a life. But that choice led to this moment. It showed me that compassion is not weakness. It is the foundation of civilization. Every species watching this broadcast has a choice now too. Support the Draconids' right to exist as free people, or support those who would enslave them for profit. Choose carefully. History's watching." The broadcast ended. Within minutes, the galactic network exploded. Social media feeds overflowed with comments. News agencies scrambled to provide analysis. Politicians on 100 worlds started issuing statements. And most importantly, public opinion started to shift. Protests erupted outside Helion Industries' offices across the galaxy. Celebrities and thought leaders voiced support for Draconid recognition. Even some governments began calling for peaceful resolution and immediate diplomatic talks. The pressure was building, turning into a wave that would be difficult to ignore. Helion's fleet was still in orbit when the Draconid delegation launched. 20 dragons, including Skyfire carrying Adrian, flew straight up through the volcanic crater and into space. They did not hide. They did not evade. They flew in formation, broadcasting their trajectory to every sensor in range, and every camera in the galaxy watched them go. Helion's fleet moved to intercept, but then hesitated. Patricia Lynn's face appeared on open channels, her expression carefully controlled. "Dr. Cole, you are making a mistake. The Galactic Council will not grant recognition based on propaganda and emotional appeals." "Then they can tell us that in person," Adrian replied. "We will be there in 3 days. Come along if you want." The whole galaxy is invited to watch. The journey to the Galactic Council became the most watched event in modern history. News drones followed the Draconid delegation every kilometer of the way. Journalists interviewed experts on live broadcasts, debating the evidence of sapience, discussing the implications of a new spacefaring civilization. The Draconids themselves gave interviews through translation devices, answering questions about their culture, their history, their hopes for the future. Skyfire and Adrian became the face of the entire movement. They gave joint interviews where Skyfire described what it was like dying in that cage, how Adrian's compassion had saved him, how that one act of kindness had convinced an entire species to reveal themselves. Adrian spoke about the responsibility of advanced civilizations to recognize personhood when they encountered it, regardless of how unusual that personhood appeared. The public response was overwhelming. Support for Draconid recognition reached 70% across most polling. Even species that had initially been skeptical started changing their positions as they saw the evidence. Watched the interviews, learned about Draconid culture. Helion Industries tried to counter with their own campaign, arguing about property rights and legal precedent and economic impact. But every argument they made sounded hollow compared to watching Skyfire talk about losing his family, or seeing Cinderclaw display artwork that was thousands of years old, or hearing Moonwing discuss Draconid philosophy with scholars from other species. 3 days later, they arrived at the Galactic Council station. The massive orbital platform housed representatives from every recognized civilization in the galaxy. It was a symbol of cooperation and peaceful coexistence, and today it would decide if that cooperation extended to dragons. The council chambers were designed to accommodate diverse biology, with areas for aquatic species, atmospheric species, energy beings. The Draconids perched on reinforced platforms, their size making even the large chamber feel crowded. Adrian stood at the center speaking podium, looking up at representatives from hundreds of worlds. The council speaker was an elderly Novian, a crystalline species similar to Judge Theron, but with iridescent coloring. Her name was Elder Prism, and she had served in this role for 40 years. Dr. Adrian Cole. Elder Prism's voice resonated through the chamber. "You have brought a petition for formal sapient recognition of the species known as Draconids. The council has reviewed the evidence you submitted. We have watched the broadcasts. We have studied the historical data. Before we make our decision, we have questions." "I am ready to answer," Adrian said. "Why did the Draconids hide for 5,000 years? Why not seek diplomatic relations through normal channels?" Cinderclaw spoke, his voice amplified through the chamber. "Because we learned that revealing ourselves led to exploitation and war. Because we chose survival over visibility. Because we needed to know if the galaxy had evolved beyond the greed that nearly destroyed us. And have we? Another council member asked. A cetacean swimming in a massive water tank. Some of you, yes, Moonwing said. The evidence is mixed. But Adrian Cole proved that at least one species, humanity, has individuals capable of true compassion. That was enough to give us hope. Elder Prism turned to Adrian. You saved a Draconid child. That is admirable. But one act of kindness does not prove an entire species has evolved. How do we know humanity will not exploit the Draconids once they are recognized? Adrian took a breath. You do not know. I cannot guarantee what humanity will do. We are flawed. We are capable of great kindness and terrible cruelty, often at the same time. But I can tell you what I believe. I believe that most people, when given a choice between right and wrong, will choose right if the choice is clear enough. I believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. The Draconids are visible now. The galaxy is watching. That makes exploitation much harder. Not impossible, but harder. And every generation it gets a little harder as more people choose compassion over greed. You are an optimist, Elder Prism observed. I am a realist who refuses to give in to cynicism, Adrian corrected. Yes, Helion Industries tried to exploit Skyfire. Yes, there will be others who try the same with other Draconids. But there were also people who fought for Skyfire's rights. There were scientists who testified on his behalf. There were protesters who demanded justice. Good exists alongside evil. Our job is to make sure good wins more often than it loses. A representative from a species Adrian did not recognize spoke up. The Draconids possess advanced regenerative abilities. They have biological properties that could revolutionize medicine. If we grant them sapient rights, we cannot study these properties without their consent. That could cost lives. And if we do not grant them sapient rights, Adrian replied, we give permission for any species to be enslaved if they happen to have useful biology. Where does that end? How many civilizations do we reduce to laboratory specimens because it is convenient? The Draconids are offering partnership. They will share their knowledge freely, on terms of mutual respect. Is that not better than forced extraction? Starclaw spread his wings. We are willing to work with galactic medical researchers. We will donate genetic samples. We will share our scientific knowledge. But as partners, not as property. Give us recognition, and we will give you cooperation. Deny us recognition, and you prove we were right to hide. The debate continued for hours. Representatives asked questions about Draconid history, culture, technology, intentions. Each question was answered fully and honestly. The Draconids had nothing to hide anymore. They laid bare their entire civilization for the galaxy to judge. Finally, Elder Prism called for a vote. The question before this council is whether the Draconid species meets the minimum threshold for sapient recognition, as defined in the Galactic Sapience Accord. All those in favor, indicate now. The chamber lit up with indicators as representatives cast their votes. Adrian felt Skyfire's presence behind him, the dragon too large to fit at the podium but standing as close as physically possible. He could feel the tension radiating from every Draconid in the room. The votes tabulated quickly. Elder Prism studied the results, her crystalline structure pulsing with light. By a vote of 347 to 93, with 42 abstentions, this council recognizes the Draconid species as fully sapient with all rights and protections afforded under galactic law. Congratulations and welcome to the galactic community. The chamber erupted in sound. Some representatives cheered, others grumbled. Most simply absorbed the historic nature of the moment. The Draconids made sounds of relief and joy that echoed through the station. And Skyfire lowered his massive head to gently touch Adrian's shoulder with his snout. We did it, Father. We actually did it. Adrian felt tears streaming down his face. We did. You are free. Truly free. Elder Prism raised a crystalline hand for silence. There is one more matter to address. Dr. Adrian Cole, you have been instrumental in bringing the Draconids to our attention. The Council would like to offer you a formal position as Special Ambassador for Draconid Relations. Would you accept? Adrian looked up at Skyfire, who nodded encouragement. He looked at Cinderclaw, Moonwing, Starclaw, all the dragons who had trusted him with their future. He thought about the night he found a dying hatchling in a smuggler's cage, how he had no idea that saving one life would lead to this moment. I accept, Adrian said, on one condition. Any diplomatic mission involving the Draconids must include Draconid representatives as equal partners. I will not speak for them. I will speak with them. Agreed, Elder Prism said. Let it be recorded. Today we add a new voice to our council. May it be the first of many yet to come. The formal ceremonies took several more hours. Treaties were signed. Embassies were established. The Draconids designated representatives to begin full diplomatic relations with various governments. It was boring and bureaucratic and absolutely necessary. Adrian participated where needed, but mostly he watched the dragons navigate this new world of galactic politics with grace and intelligence. Later, after the ceremonies, after the news drones finally dispersed, Adrian and Skyfire stood on an observation deck looking out at the stars. The Galactic Council station orbited a beautiful blue planet that reminded Adrian a little of Earth. "What are you thinking about?" Skyfire asked. "About how strange life is. 6 months ago, I was a bored xenobiologist filing reports nobody read. Now I am a galactic ambassador, helping to introduce an ancient civilization to the modern galaxy. It is surreal. Do you regret it, saving me that night? If you had walked away, your life would have been simpler." Adrian looked at his friend, his son, this magnificent being who had grown from a dying creature small enough to hold in his arms to a massive dragon who could fly between stars. Not for a second. Best decision I ever made. Even though it cost you everything, your career, your peaceful life, your anonymity, it did not cost me everything. It gave me everything that matters. It gave me you. It gave me purpose. It showed me that one person really can change the world, or in this case, multiple worlds. How could I regret that? Skyfire made a contented sound, smoke drifting from his nostrils. I was so scared that night in the cage. I had given up. I was ready to die. Then you came, and you refused to let me die. You fought for me when I could not fight for myself. That is when I knew. Knew what? That some bonds transcend species. That family is not about biology. It is about choice. You chose me that night. You chose me every day after. So I choose you too. For as long as I live, you are my family, my father, my friend. Adrian reached up and placed his hand on Skyfire's scales, feeling the warmth of the dragon's body. And you are mine, always. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching ships come and go from the station, seeing the galaxy continue on with its business. Somewhere out there, Helion Industries was probably plotting their next move. Other corporations would try to find loopholes in the recognition laws. There would be challenges ahead, setbacks, maybe even danger. But right now, in this moment, they had won. They had proven that compassion was stronger than greed, that courage could change civilizations, that one person's choice to save a life could ripple out to affect billions. What happens next? Skyfire asked. Adrian smiled. We keep going. We help your people integrate into the galaxy. We make sure the recognition is not just legal but practical. We build bridges between species. We show everyone that cooperation is better than exploitation. Sounds like a lot of work. It will be, but we will do it together. Like we do everything. Together, Skyfire agreed. Always together. 6 months ago, Adrian had found a dying creature in a cage and made a choice that most people would have called foolish. He had risked everything to save a life that the law considered worthless. He had fought against power and money and systems that seemed unbeatable, and he had won. Not because he was special or gifted or destined for greatness. He won because when faced with the choice between walking away and doing the right thing, he chose to do the right thing. He chose compassion over comfort. He chose principle over profit. He chose love over law. That was what it meant to be human at their best. Not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the most advanced, but the species that could look at a dying creature from an alien world and say, "You deserve to live, and I will fight to make sure you do." That was the real HFY moment, not conquering the galaxy through force, but changing it through compassion. Adrian looked at Skyfire, at the dragon who had once been dying in his arms and was now his guardian and son. He thought about all the challenges ahead, all the work still to be done, and he smiled. Because he was exactly where he needed to be, doing exactly what he was meant to do with exactly the right person beside him. The rest would be difficult, but they would face it together. And that made all the difference.